host Sean Miley. Today's topic, right? What we're going to be talking about. We're going to talk about what happened to Toronto hip hop. Mm-hmm. Wake and bake, blazing, but talking about what happened to Toronto hip hop. Once great, and I feel that it just fell in these recent years. Mm-hmm. Respect to Drake, Tory Lanez, who spotlight the city in urban music to the world, to America, but the majority of the artists ain't benefiting. Some of the first hip hop artists to come out of here were true lyricists. We had Maestro, Michie Chaos, Cardinal Official, Choclair, Socrates. Those are the biggest names. I'm just gonna be straight up saying in hip hop in Toronto. Socrates was one of the main hip hop artists um, after Maestro to really get recognition in America. Well, let me say Michie when Maestro was out in the 80s. Those two set the foundation. Michie Maestro in the 80s, early 90s. Then the Circle, Socrates, Choclair, Cardinal Official set the tone, right? We had Dream Warriors in Toronto. Respect to them. They had an impact, like, keeping the scene alive. There's many others. It's the Screwface capital, or nicknamed the Screwface, not because of people who just hate, because for a lot of artists to be successful from Toronto, you really had to be skilled and talented for people to respect you when you went out in the arena to perform, right? Now, one major factor why Toronto hip hop is not the same like back in the early 90s is because we have less infrastructure. As funny as it is, we used to have something called Much Music promoting hip hop a lot. Well, when it was getting popular, and they had Rap City, what was coming on, when different times, various times, but it was promoting local hip hop acts, right? And then there was the mix, or in the mix, host Master T was promoting artists even from America and other places. They would come and perform in Toronto at a hub where Much Music was, right? That was going on. That was in the 90s. A lot of acts came through, well known. What happened? So, as technology grew, right? Technology grew. All of a sudden, the infrastructure went away because the internet came out. Any Tom, Dick, and Harry became an artist. So it became saturated, right? I'll be honest. You could call me an OG, old head, whatever. I've been listening to hip hop for a long time and Toronto hip hop. I stopped listening to Toronto hip hop probably after 2005. Hmm. Because there was no rap city, nothing to spotlight it. Where would you look for a Toronto rapper before the internet really took off? There was MySpace. There's limited places to look online for a Toronto rapper. They had certain pages, maybe established that time, that would promote Toronto hip hop, but it was Rap City or Much Music still that you had to depend on to see who's coming out from here. So you really had to be doing some type of work to get to be known in Toronto, even 2005. That's 2005, the 2000s we're talking about. You still had to do footwork. It wasn't easy. 2005. Internet was around, right? So, what happened to Toronto hip hop is that I think it became too easy to call yourself a rapper. And now, when Drake came around, 2009 with his mixtape, 2010, this young kid, right? Not from the hood, as they call it, he he had the dream. He got the dream. Everybody who wants to be a big time rapper in America from Canada or Toronto wants. He became internationally known and very big. You know the story with Drake. So Drake took off and he started a trend. He started a trend, a new sound, even in America to the world. But Toronto, right? What was going on? So as we continue, as we continue, a lot of people was trying to do the Drake sound or trying to mimic that. It did not work. It did not work, right? So that's why Drake has so much success because he has his own sound. After that, around probably around the same after that, Tory Lanez, Tory Lanez became internationally known, big in America, and he's from Canada, Ontario, Brampton, GTA. So he became big, and him and Drake start taking over the urban charts in America. But what was going on in Toronto? People were trying to mimic them, or were they doing their own thing? Well, let's dissect this. What I think is they didn't follow the blueprint. Most people, because Tory Lanez and Drake, they were doing commercial music, are still doing commercial music. They were promoting commercial music to get into the market. A lot of Toronto artists, they weren't doing that. They weren't doing that. They're still doing this neighborhood hip hop, or, I'm going to call it neighborhood hip hop, and not trying to expand their sound, right? So, sometime around 2010, when Drake became big, Toronto, right? Because I wasn't really listening to them that time. The hip hop was trying to find themselves, or rap. They're trying to find themselves. England, UK, they had their sound kind of with the drill coming. Now Toronto is a very multicultural city, so there's Jamaicans, there's Africans, all types of people part of the culture down here, and with a different sound. With, you get what I mean? Even though influences from America, right? So what happened to Toronto hip hop? What happened to Toronto hip hop? A lot of artists forgot how to do hip hop. So they're just following a trend, which was going on with other markets. New York was following the South, a lot of artists. So Toronto was doing the same thing. And a lot of other markets was trying to copy Atlanta's sound, right? And you see it with drill right now. Drills in UK, drills in New York, drills from Chicago. You get what I mean? Look how that spread out. But here, for some reason, it really wasn't the same. If you are an artist that came out in the last 5 years, it's either you're successful as an urban artist, hip hop, R&B. Most likely you came through that same energy from Drake, Party Next Door, The Weeknd, Nav. Let's be straight up. Let's be straight up. Tory Lanez has his own thing because he came out doing his own thing a long time ago. But what I've just mentioned, Drake, he set the trend. So Weeknd, pop, right? Nav is pop. right? Party Next Door is pop. So all you rappers from Toronto, you're not, sorry to say, doing that type of music, because the ones I mentioned, none of them are doing any of the up music. They're not doing self destruction music that's being promoted. When people are looking for artists down here and they're scouting the scene and they see all this fighting going on, right? No one wants to invest in a beef. Who wants to invest in a beef where it's not going to make them no money and make them spend more money? That's what's going on right now. Toronto, for the last maybe 5 or more years, the blog pages, the media, what became the new sound, the new eye and voice for a lot of these artists. Majority of the time, it's not music they're promoting. Majority of the time, it's been beef, right? People talking about bullshit more than music. You haven't seen a body of work come out from any of these artists, rarely, right? And then there's different tiers of this hip hop in Toronto because people rate you on how much followers you have and how much streams you have. So there's artists that are promoted by these pages, right? And those are the ones that are supposed to be the top rappers because they're on these pages. And if you're not on these pages, you're not relevant. But there's a lot of artists who are not on these pages, but they still have numbers. You know what I'm saying? They got the numbers. So, Toronto hip hop, what happened to Toronto hip hop? A lot of people became just studio artists. A lot of these artists are so called artists, they don't go out to perform. You don't see them really have any shows. Not all of them, but the majority of them, you never ever see them go out to do any shows. There's no unity. There's a lack of Toronto rappers doing features. There's a lack of, like I said, shows. The so called Toronto rappers ain't making no money because if they were making money, you would see more features and they would have shows. That's what's going on in Atlanta. They're having their own shows in Atlanta, and they all, well, a lot of them feature and work with each other more than Toronto. If you guys want to follow the blueprint, you got to follow that. But people are basing their career off of beefs. Everything is based off of these beefs. So that's going to hurt the bag. Back in the day, don't hate to sound old, these rappers, Michi Me and Maestro, and Chaos, and many others, they were just doing their thing, making their projects, right? Getting it promoted, marketed, and that's why a lot of these artists have won Juno Awards because they're doing their business. It's not just the music, the creation, it's the business part. A lot of these new artists from Toronto are missing the business aspect and they have bad advice. Bad advice. They're getting bad advice. A lot of people need managers they don't have. A lot of people still need artist development. They're not doing that. Like, let's be straight up. There's all types of markets out there at like different cities, and the reason they're not as big as, like, just say New York or LA or Atlanta, because it's similar like Toronto. They're not united, they're not organized, there's a lack of infrastructure, right? Like, there's not too much radio stations representing hip hop in Toronto. There's no hip hop awards in Toronto. No hip hop awards. Not official, what's recognized that I know of, right? There's a lack of a lot of stuff. So people fighting against each other makes it even worse. That's what's going on with Toronto hip hop. It's not, if you want to call it hip hop, it's based off of beef and who has the biggest record. I mean, not even, I'm not talking about music record. I'm talking about illegal record. The more illegal background you have, the more respect you're gonna get and spotlight from the blogs or the pages, because it seems like your story sells more than your music, even if your music is trash. And let's be straight up, some people are not being honest. A lot of the music what has came out, even what I've been hearing in the last maybe good 7 years, majority of it, not all of it, big majority of it is trash. A big majority of the music what's been coming out is garbage from Toronto. No one is being honest. Let's be honest. When this auto tune became popular, people abused it. I can't tell you how much people I've heard use that constantly. I know other places done it, but in Toronto, they killed it. And a lot of them don't know how to use it. Whoever was engineering it just you don't even, it's not even their voice. You don't even know their real voice. And that's one reason they probably can't perform, because it's totally artificial, or whatever you want to call it. So even the production and the quality has gone down, if you want to call it hip hop. It's gone down. It's become microwaved music, easy. You don't even really need to know how to sing or whatever, even have bars or anything, and they will put that through. Especially all these pages, that will go through before somebody is lyrical, before somebody brings skill, that will go through. So that's what's happening to Toronto hip hop. The quality has gone down. Before, it was more, even more screw face. We lost the screw face. It means something else now. The screw face in the music hip hop scene mean you better have skills. You have your songs, make sure you remember them. This talking over your tracks or whatever, that was not a normal. But now that's a norm. When people perform, it's the song playing. They're not even performing. That's why probably a lot of these artists are scared to do shows, because they don't want to make people see that they don't remember their lyrics. Let's be straight. The reason people do that because they don't remember their lyrics. Toronto hip hop shows, I haven't really seen a good one unless it's a vet. There haven't been any good hip hop shows, you could say, from the so-called known hip hop artists in Toronto. Haven't seen it. Tell me. There's some artists who have been doing the shows, like Roni, for the last over last year or so. He's showing an example. Roni, respect to him. He shows an example of an artist from Toronto not waiting and doing his own thing, right? Doing tours all over Canada, doing local tours where the local people are organized. It's a success for him. It's working for him. So respect to that. Hope to see more. And I swear Casper TNG has done that too. So he's smart to do that too, connecting with his people, local people. And these are artists who's supposed to be maybe scared to do shows, but they're doing their shows. Roni and Casper TNG, I see you. You've been doing your shows, even though the police and it been trying to silence you ever since you came out. If people should talk about that, I talked about that on my podcast before about that situation, right? You see how the it's the hip hop police. They really exist. That's why they shut down what's his name, Schoolboy Q's show the other day. You know what I mean? They really watch the blogs, they watch the pages, what's supposed to be the voice of the scene, and they see what's going on, see what's being reported, and they just watch. It's easy to catch people more than ever nowadays because of these pages. Be talking about ops, be talking about all you guys' business, even if you don't want them to talk about it, they will talk about it. So that's what's happening to Toronto rappers. The more shit you get into, the more respect you get, right? Even if you're doing some foolery, the more fuckery you do, the more respect you get. It's not even talent necessarily. You don't have to be the most talented lyrical miracle rapper anymore or whatever. All you have to do, well, it's gonna change because of this Kendrick and Drake shit with this ghostwriting stuff. It's changing. The CB4 shit. I recommend you guys watch that movie by Chris Rock. Back in the days, he done a movie called CB4 with two other actors. Can't remember their name, but CB4, look it up because that's exactly what's been going on for years, and especially now with rappers. Chris Rock movie, CB4, check that out. But Toronto rappers, a lot of you are CB4. A lot of you are CB4 doing it a lot. So it kind of confuses who's real from the fake. And not every rapper you have to identify with to be a gangster or someone who's a thug or ops. That's the problem with Toronto so called hip hop. What happened to Toronto hip hop? You lost your identity, you lost the quality, even though we know the quality's out there, but then we're going to have to go to the vets. I'm talking about the new generation. Yes, there's people who are probably great MCs, great artists, but Toronto hip hop is all based off of clout right now. What they call Toronto hip hop, whoever is the ones who's supposed to be repping for this new generation, which is online. Toronto hip hop is based off of clout. Which lyricist right now with bars is getting promoted from Toronto? Ask yourself, who with bars, not talking about no ops. I don't want to hear no person talking about street shit. And it's not even lyrical either. Because some people are bigging all these guys up for just drama. They don't have no bars, nothing. They can't spit one bar a day. All they talk about is ops and some some shit in their music. So they're only getting respect off of the street shit, not the lyrical shit, which it means something. MC. They're not. Let's see if a lot of these guys could go off the top of their head and freestyle without being in the studio. That's how I'm giving you a grade. Now they should be different divisions of this whole thing because some of these guys, yeah, they're good op rappers, they're nice in the studio, and then they can't even freestyle a day. They can't go off the top, right? And then there's the ones who are lyrical. They're not into op. They're just gonna spit pure lyrics. That's the culture. Hip hop should rate that differently. How you rating the best? Who's the hottest? What is it? Is it artists or you're talking about hip hop? Because I see some of these Toronto blog pages bigging up the wrong people. I'm going to be straight at saying it. I'm not going to say no names, but I see a lot of these blog pages bigging up the wrong people because maybe they can't connect with the people who are real lyrical, or maybe they see that there's hardly any one of them. That's why respect to her, Lioness Kerr could stand out, and Drake's there. I'm not saying she don't have any lyrics, but people are criticizing her because it's not the uniform type of rapper. Look how her look is one thing, right? And after then some of her lyrics, I you have to be someone who understands abstract lyrics, but the average person now who's young listening to hip hop, they don't want to hear Linus Kerr, but Drake does. Drake co-signed Linus Kerr, right? So that's what's getting pushed out there now. Now there was a parody rapper who done something, I don't know if it was fully AI, but it was rumored with uh Gwan Delilah, and Drake was on there, and that got attention. But he's a parody artist. He's not really a serious rapper or whatever you want to call it. Look at that. Now, we have a lot of great MCs, artists, women and female. Why don't we have a female Nicki Minaj? I mean, on the level that it's getting attention like Drake, a female like that. We don't even have that yet. We don't even have Well, if you want to say top white rapper, that would be Mercury's now, but he's not known like that still fully yet. Like he's Canadian and he's in America. You got Tom McDonald playing like he's American, but he's really from Canada, Tom McDonald. So even our top white rappers are not even really known like that, besides Tom McDonald, but he doesn't recognize Canada. He's basically American now, and that's ours. He's trying to mimic Eminem. Let's be straight up. He's kissing Eminem's ass, Tom McDonald. Yeah, you blocked me on Instagram too, but yeah, Tom McDonald, he's the only one, right? And he's big. He's big in America, Tom McDonald. So Toronto hip hop, what happened to it now? No unity. Still 2024. No unity. I can't even mention anyone's project. If you ask me, name 5 rappers from Toronto with an album, you cannot name, I can't name any. I can't name any 5 hip hop artists with an album. I'm going to give you some time to think about it. Yep. Give you some time to think about it. None. It's bad. It's very bad. Very, very bad. No one has a body of work. And some of the vets, I don't know either. Do they have a body of work? No. Singles. Toronto hip hop. What happened? Everybody was following the trend. And for us, a newer market, let's be straight up, trying to break in the market with more artists, it's everybody for themselves. We got other artists who are doing things, but they're not on the level as Drake or Tory Lanez or a Weekend or a Party Next Door. No, because a lot of people want to still do that ops music. That's what's going on. A lot of people still want to do the ops music. They're not learning. That's why it doesn't go. A lot of that music is not played on the radio. It will never. You'll never get a Juno, right? You'll never get a Juno or it played on the radio. And then you want to tour with that same content, right? You think that's gonna really work? Let's be straight up. Don't say. I'm not saying to sell out, but that's the reality. That is the reality. You got to have quality music. Drake set the standard right now, like it or not. When you're coming out from Toronto as an artist, it's not just music, it's how you present yourself with the business. And a lot of you don't know the business. A lot of you are not even registered in a music society. So can. How much times do I gotta say this? A lot of you won't be taken seriously because you don't know to handle your business. So that's why Toronto rap or Toronto so called hip hop has dwindled and we don't have any hubs to promote. And even if you do get on a platform where you get interviewed, a lot of you don't even promote that because the promoter's trying to promote you, but you won't promote the promoter. You see how that goes? So, man, what happened to Toronto hip hop is a lot of you became lazy. And then they want to blame the OGs. Some people will try to blame the OGs because they're going to say the OGs should have invested in the scene and the like this spliff, right? So if the OGs don't invest in the scene, what then? Maybe they could do whatever they want, my opinion. But it would have helped. It would help if, like, when these shows are going on, these local shows, that some of these artists attend and show support or put on a show. A whole bunch of you. I haven't seen that ever yet from the vets. Everybody is waiting for Drake to be Superman. I think that is what's hurting or been hurting Toronto recently. Everybody's looking to for the most successful individual, right? Can't blame them. He's an example to basically throw down his cape. That's what they're looking for him to throw down his cape. He threw it down for a couple people, right? Smiley, right, and a couple other people on his label. He Most of the people on his label are Canadian. I guarantee they're Canadian. So he has done it, but it's to a certain few, right? It's like the circle, man. Can't blame him. Drake has threw down his cape, but everybody wants him to throw it down even more and more, probably as long as the CN Tower. That's what they want. They want Drake to throw down his cape. That's what happened to Toronto hip hop. Toronto hip hop people got lazy and want to depend on somebody else to do the work. The big Toronto should have the last name Lazy because they want other people to do the work for them and then they could benefit off of it. And that's what I feel is the case with Drake. They want to benefit off of his success. That's how Toronto, sorry, it seems Toronto people are. They won't support you until they see other people support you, aka America. So America supports you, so damn, we're gonna take you in now. They really have to show that America supports you to get the support here. And that's what Drake did, different than everybody else. So when you're trying to be successful in their market doing hip hop, you're gonna have to really do your research to see how a lot of the artists from here made it in America and what content they put out. Because if you think that you don't have to follow the blueprint, what even some of the R&B artists are like Jesse Reyes has done, and Drake, Tory Lanez, Weekend, even Belly, I'm gonna put him in there, has done. If you think you don't have to follow that, then you're in a different universe. Because most of those artists I've mentioned, they all have music on the radio, commercial music on the radio, all of them, and it's always playing. So if you can't get into that type of energy, right, or that type of wave, that means you're doing something wrong. You're making music, going to the studio, spending money, if you are, burning your money and not getting any results. And you'll always just be a Toronto rapper, a local Toronto rapper, or a Canadian rapper. So that's what happened to Toronto hip hop. A lot of the things what I just explained, business, unity, right? Attitude. That's a lot of the things what's going on. And that's why there's no infrastructure here, because of a lack of unity and, like I'm saying, education, progress, and there's a lot of separation. So that's what's going on with Toronto hip hop. Drake can't save everybody. He cannot save everybody. But you should look on Drake as an example. That's one good thing with him. Look on him as an example. His steps to success, what type of content he came out with to be there, and Tory Lanez too. If you want to be the gangster rapper, you could be the gangster rapper and the op rapper, but don't expect to see commercial success. Even the biggest op rapper from Toronto right now, right? He's just like big in music in Canada. He's not the biggest in. No one really plays his music in America or anywhere else. It's only played in Canada and Toronto. One of the biggest op rappers. Some or a couple of the biggest op rappers from here. Their music's only reaching Toronto, not even sometime other parts of Canada. You get what I mean? They do a fucking what it's called. You would say like on Instagram, shadow banning on music. You don't think they do a shadow banning on music? That's new to you, eh? If they could shadow ban you online, you don't think they do a shadow ban on your music? So you might see numbers reach to a certain level, but it could have been bigger than that. Realize they probably do shadow ban some music from Toronto. Remember, Toronto has an image to uphold. They can't have a lot of bad negative things being shown or told through art from here. That's why Drake and Tory Lanez are at the level they are. Well, even though Tory Lanez is locked up, his music is still top level. He's still getting top streams. He's still getting a lot of people listening to his music, right? Drake too. Weekend for sure. Record streams breaking. He had record streams breaking every day with Drake, and Tory Lanez is in there some way, right? My whole thing is that all these people are from here and they're at the top or in the top of urban music. So why is it that the majority of Toronto artists can't do the same? Why? Why is it so hard? Because no one, even if you can't go to America, you're not making it work here. Like I said, you can make a bag doing a show. If you had a moolah, okay, I'm gonna put it controversial. A moolah and a presser show. A moolah and a presser show. Wouldn't that be big bags? Wouldn't that be big bags? Wouldn't that bring a lot of attention? Because Mullah's he claims he's the top rapper from Canada. And you know Presser's been in America working with 50 and doing things with all types of artists in America. Presser, wouldn't it be a big thing for Mola and Presser to do a track together? Wouldn't that change a lot of things for the city? Wouldn't it be big for like some of these guys from like other neighborhoods, but they're doing music and they're the top hip-hop artists, so-called top hip-hop artists? Put away some of their differences and do a track together, or even a compilation with all Toronto rappers on it, and somebody representing it, like a compilation. That could work too. The whole thing is the attitude needs to change. That's why Toronto hip hop is not big. Because it's not big. Let's be straight up. Let's be honest. Toronto hip hop's not big. There's other markets where they're bigger in America, and they're not big known cities. Toronto hip hop's not big. As big as Drake is, Toronto hip hop is not big. Go look at probably Memphis, for example. They have way more artists, more established than here. Go look at even Las Vegas, and you're not even gonna think they probably have more artists, more established than here. I could keep going. Go look at Pittsburgh. They have probably more artists compared to here established, right? For sure, Chicago does. Detroit does. I could keep going. They don't have some of these cities have their own versions of Drake, like Kanye West, Common Sense from Chicago, right? Detroit, Eminem, D12, Royce the 5'9", and others. Toronto has a lot of great artists and MCs, but what's going on with the scene? I was already talking about the vets being involved, or now like the new generation working together. Not even the old generation's really working together. They're not even working together. So that's why you can't sometimes blame the younger generation because they're saying if the vets ain't doing it, why should I do it? But guess what? That's why it's sad. The scene will never ever grow with that attitude. It's going to be a long time before we get respect again in any way because of this beef too with Drake. A lot of people took Kendrick Lamar's side, even though Drake has support. A lot of people took Kendrick Lamar's side, and this was a deciding battle of who's the king or whatever of hip hop, and who is like the loser basically ain't get is just a participant. It's not the same. You get what I mean? And Drake became the loser, and he represents the city. Some people may think, nah, this didn't really set us back, but it did in getting respect from America, that market. We were already trying to get respect already, even with Drake and Tory Lanez and people. People are still do in some way respect. But this Tory Lanez thing made a big population and an eye open up not to respect us. So not like us just hit Toronto. I have to admit, hit Canada. That's why there's a lot of people in their feelings. They're really in their feelings. But guess what? Toronto hip hop, our so-called rap, needs to step up. That's why Rolling Loud did not return. Why did Rolling Loud didn't return to a so-called world-class city like Toronto? It goes to everywhere. What happened? Why did Rolling Loud not return? They probably saying that we're not even ready. That is a disrespect to all the local artists that made it on the Rolling Loud that they did not return. Don't you realize that is like a spit in the face? They did not return. Come on. Why? Who's to blame? I want to know. Because if Rolling Loud didn't return, they don't find no interest in our city. As big as Toronto or people want to make Toronto out there to be. Is it because Drake didn't show up? Tory Lanez showed up. Is it because they expected Drake to come out on Rolling Loud and he disrespected them by saying no, he's not going to do it? I don't know. There might be a backstory to it. But I guarantee, I was thinking the biggest, so-called biggest artists from Toronto would have been there at the Rolling Loud. So instead, Tory Lanez, don't forget Tory Lanez was performing there. What happened to Toronto hip hop? It was great. Still is great, but was really great at one time when you had to prove yourself more. And it was more work actually. But now, in this microwave generation, Gen Z or whatever you want to call it, this information age, it's never been the same because you're not rate off of talent and quality, it's off of clout, street cred, and what the pages find attractive on Instagram to post about or talk about on YouTube. To talk about not your music, but your personal life and negative things. Nothing positive, really. So, this is what I'm giving you in this Down to Earth episode live stream, early episode. But subscribe, people. Check out the YouTube for other episodes. This episode is what happened to Toronto hip hop, right? So leave your comments, your opinions. I'm your host of the Down to Earth podcast, Sean Myrie.